Hi, and welcome back to another in a series of video blogs. This time we're talking to Nicola on employee engagement. So, hi, Nicola.
Hi.
Firstly, tell us why this is really important at this time.
There's no more important time than this. Employee engagement is essential, as many HR professional knows out there. Many organisations are coming to take an employee engagement approach to working with their people. At this time, our people need to know the part that they play. If you speak to any employee engagement specialist, they will say there's kind of no such thing as an organisation. It's a collective of people all working towards a common outcome. So about their relationship with their team, how they feel about themselves, their well-being, and how connected they feel to their organisation is fundamental. So there are certain conditions that need to be enabled to allow the individual to engage. So there's no more important time than now, and there's a lot that organisations can do to enable it.
Absolutely, and especially as the workforce is dispersed. So, can you give us some pointers around how that can come to life? So, in your opinion, what is the role of the organisational leader, team leader, manager, and what do people need from this at this particular time from these people?
Yeah. So I guess my thoughts form in three different areas. So if I start with the leader, yeah, so the person who's sort of standing at the front of the snowplow, who is enabling the organisation to move forward and clear the way for it. That engaging leader. The engaging leader is somebody who people know, somebody who people trust. They create resonance through being open. They express their passion. They're honest. They're clear in their communication. And I guess the important thing for leaders who are leading the organisation is that they communicate often. They communicate well. They communicate about what's important, and they communicate about the key things that people need to know about in order to know their part that they play. So their communication must be current, it must be regular, it must be future focused, and it must be passionate. Absolutely purpose filled. So the leader is the person who has got their eyes on their horizon and is leading the organisation forward, and their content needs to be continuing to be focused on that horizon. They also need to bring their team with them. So it's about recognizing the successes, recognizing the benchmarks, recognizing that where business as usual is being enabled through the efforts of the people, that is championed and that is celebrated. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what sort of tools do the leaders have to make sure that they're doing what you just set out?
The tools that we're using now. It's really that simple. People want to be people want their leaders to be seen, heard, and experienced. It's so important that the leader is present in their employees world. So visually, we need to see their faces. We need to hear the words coming out of their mouth. Of course, written text, but there's nothing like that visual and audible communication, because so much of communication is in this and our facial expressions and our body language, and we're only 7% of our communication is in the words that we use. So it's absolutely fundamental that leaders are proactively using software to reach out to their people. If it's live, if it can be engaging and two-way, even better. But as a minimum, blogs, vlogs that go out to their workforce, reaching out to them. There's also another part in terms of the role of the leader, which is about the information coming back and listening. So a key enabler of engagement is around people feeling that they have a voice. and they are heard. So the leadership team needs to keep an ear out and check that everyone is okay, and they need to utilize feedback methods, be it an internally created survey that's rolled out electronically or through the manager, or there's tools like Tiny Pulse that are regular, often surveys on how people feel. So the leader needs to be proactively out there and proactively gathering information to listen and demonstrate that they are listening.
Great advice, and I think sometimes I'll talk about the role of the manager, and sometimes that sort of definition between leader and manager gets blurred. And what you're saying is your leader has that specific point of focus. It's the galvanizing. It's that figurehead. So following on from that, then. So what about sort of the role of the manager? So what do the people need from that group at this particular point in time?
Completely. The manager creates the productive team. So that proactivity, that productivity comes from a proactivity from the manager. You may have heard this phrase before. People join an organisation, but they leave their manager, and we see it. I mean, I've had personal experience of that in my career. I'm sure everyone has. So it's just about that realization that the relationship that the manager has with their people at this time is fundamental. So that takes a proactivity, because those people aren't in the office. We don't see their faces around us, but they don't see us as if we're a manager. So it's regular check-ins. And when I say regular, I'm not being specific about that, because it's really down to your team and the individuals within the team as to how often they want you to be in contact with them. The last thing we want is a perception of being a micromanager, because you care so much. It's about really asking your people, how often do you want me to check in with you? Is once a day okay? Twice a day, do you need more? What is useful in terms of me supporting you? So it's a mutual agreement. And I guess when it comes to general ways of working, that's the second key point. So the first key point is proactive communication with the teams. The second one is a mutual approach. So it's mutual agreement on everything, or as much as possible. So where you are agreeing objectives, timescales, outcomes, work patterns, work load, an engagement approach is agree the what and the why, and let them come up with a how, because they're the ones that's actually having to do the work. So the team members at this time, they have got so much to contend with. They are making the transition of having their kids at home and having to deal with that. I've just had a client today that can't have their coaching session because they're having to deal with the kids. It's real. This is about the realization of how much this is impacting. So it's really coming to an agreement of what are those objectives and timescales and outcomes that sit comfortably with you both, and where perhaps there isn't a capability with an individual because they've got something going on at home, who's more flexible, who has more time available, that it could flex between you, and having that really open, honest conversation, because it's about everyone joining together proactively as a team to support each other. And that kind of actually moves me on to my third point, which is around sharing.
Before you do that, Nicola,
I think that team feel needs to remain from when we are. Sorry.
So I was going to say before that, it's really important as well to say that the leader also has to play that manager role specifically for the people that are looking after them. So I think, it's really important that whilst a leader goes out and does that leadership role, they do need to make sure that their managers are being looked after as well. So, yeah, because actually sometimes.
You're absolutely right. And I'm really glad you said that, because a leader to me is just a line manager of managers in that way. So it's very rare that you will get a senior leader who doesn't have some kind of reporting structure. So completely, absolutely, all of these things apply to the leader as well. It's just kind of a given, really. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
And when it comes to creating the team, and you used the word galvanizing earlier on, I think that's when it comes to the manager and the manager managing the team, that's their role within the team. So a leader may do that for the organization, but the manager has to do it for the team. So the manager must proactively help people understand their part in the successes, their part in the benchmarks and the milestones and the work that's being delivered. The news that's happening in the team, the successes, the highs and lows that everyone's going through, and creating a cohesive, united team. And that can come from honesty, that can come from a sense of openness from the manager. The leader needs to demonstrate it, but as does the manager. The manager needs to role model the challenging times that they're experiencing as well. The fact that this is real, this is not easy times. They need to role model different aspects like switching off. The fact that they aren't going to be able to work past a certain period of time because the kids are at home and they have a different role to play. So it's just about recognizing that what we're asking our people to do, we need to do ourselves, and we need to role model all aspects of that.
Absolutely, absolutely, Nick. And I think as well, it's also about you can learn from it as well. So don't be afraid to ask for feedback. And you're talking about two-way for the leadership. It's the same with managers, isn't it?
There's a phrase, isn't it? It goes, I treat people the way that I would want to be treated. I treat people the way that I would want to be treated. I don't really sort of chime in with that. I would rather I treat people the way that they want to be treated. So therefore that takes asking questions, that takes checking in, that takes continuous feedback for, is this working? How are you? What can I do differently? How can I help? What can you do differently? Taking a real coaching approach to management. And then there's a sort of fourth area, which is the realization if this goes on for a while, we may have this going on for a while. It's scheduling those one-to-ones. So being proactive with ensuring that you have your one-to-ones in place. Most one-to-ones happen on a monthly basis. It's likely that you may need to do more of that. It's likely that you might bring those more often, and they should focus on the person, how they're doing as an individual, the team, how they're getting on with the team, how the team is getting on, and giving a bit of an update. Their processes, how they're going with actually working from home, how they're going with actually delivering their workload whilst they're at home, and then their performance, so generally how well they are doing. So each of those four areas are absolutely fundamental, because it shows that you are taking care of the whole person, not just delivering the outcomes. So at this time, an employee engagement approach is absolutely essential.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good segue into we talked about the leader having dual roles, the manager having dual roles. Actually, as individuals, how can people look after themselves during this time? Because obviously we are all sets of people with individual sets of circumstances. So what would you advise, and what sort of tips and hints can you give around actually the individuals looking after themselves?
Completely. Employee engagement is a two-way street. The organisation can create the conditions for people to engage, but ultimately they need to look after themselves and proactively be able to engage as well. And that comes from really putting yourself at the centre of your world and serving yourself well. Working from home is not easy. Some people say that working from home is, a holiday or lucky you. No, it's really not. As somebody who does, and many of my clients who do, it really is not. For the most, it's harder. So I break it down into three kind of areas, really. And those three areas are looking after your mind, looking after your body, and looking after your connection. And I'm just going to quickly go into each of those three. The mind is an interesting one, because what I ask people to do is be self-aware. Notice where your energy levels aren't where you want them to be. Notice where you're getting distracted. Notice where you're getting frustrated. Notice where you're not necessarily able to focus as you want to focus. Because the truth is that the mind neurologically can only focus for about approximately 20 minutes before you need to do that thing where you gaze out the window and think about something else. So even just breaking your work into 20-minute focuses, and then just knowing that you're going to just actually have to come away from that for a moment and just do something else. It takes a self-awareness, and just notice when your mind starts to wander. At that point, come out of it and do something else. So there's managing your work, there's managing your focus, then there's taking breaks, and taking breaks really well. So taking breaks for me is about almost like, how do you take a break with your mind? Two big things for me are power naps and meditation. Power naps are huge. Just 15 minutes at power nap. If there's some people can't do it, but if you can do it, just 15 minutes can just refresh you completely and enable you to have more energy to focus again. Meditation, there is so much neuroscience around meditation now, and it's becoming more and more accessible with the likes of Headspace, with the likes of Insight Timer. Meditation is proven. If you do 10 minutes meditation, neurologically, it's the same as having an hour's sleep. So wow, that has such a huge impact on your mental resources. I really recommend starting your day with a meditation, a lunchtime meditation, and an evening meditation. So it's almost like washing your hands. It's like washing your hands for your brain. So I really do recommend it. And then just notice your potential distraction in terms of the stuff that you really want to be doing, in terms of like your Facebook or your Netflix, or the the cheeky things that you want to do. Save that for the evening. Save it for your rewards. Build in rewards for different periods of time as well. This working from home takes management. So chunk things up and give yourself reward, but save the really good reward for the evening. The second area is body. So your physiological state is fundamental. Your mind and your body are one system. So if your energy is flat or frustrated or too high energy, then you won't necessarily be as productive as you want to be. So actually just do what it takes to change your physiology. So if you find yourself being tired, take a nap for sure, but also perhaps energize yourself. Go for that walk, go for that run, go for that half-hour energy booster that you need to get. And choose your time. I guess the other thing around your body is notice what are you, a morning bird, or you're an afternoon or a night owl? Work to that. So for example, I know clients who are really afternoon people or morning people, and so it's about knowing when your productivity is. And hey, if your productivity is if you have a time that's a bit lower in productivity, that's the time to go out and get some energy boost, because you need the distraction, and then come back to it. And I guess my third area is the look after your connection. Your connection comes in two forms for me. It's your connection with your people. So pick up the phone, especially if you're overthinking about something, caught up in something. Having a conversation will properly expedite your thinking. So connect with people. It's very easy to be lonely and become isolated. So in terms of your connection, reach out to people. Don't expect your manager to pick up the phone to you. Pick up the phone to your manager or to your team members, or a little chat, or whatever that is for you. Reach out to people. The second connection is with the world around us, connecting to the environment. If you have, Mark, you and I earlier when we were talking about the fact that some people have gardens, some people don't. Whatever your version of connecting to the world is, do it. If it's looking out the window, opening the window, hearing the bird song, as you might be able to hear for me, connecting to that. If it is being able to get outside for a walk and do some exercise, do that. Realize that this room that you're working in is not it. You need to open up your space and connect to the world, and do that as much as you can. The government's telling us once a day for half an hour. Connect to the world more often, or as much as you can. And I guess the key thing is, if something isn't quite working for you, if you need extra resources and extra help, communication is key, and a proactive communication. So reach out and tell people what's working and what could be better, so that they can help you do something about that, and they can potentially help.
Some really good advice, Nick. And I think, just making sure that individually, that we are, we look after our mental and physical well-being puts us in good stead to help others as well, doesn't it? And I think, some of the tips you've got there, I'm certainly going to open the door and let the bird song in today. It's little things, isn't it? It just reminds you that life is going on, even though we may be
Yeah.
some difficult times right now.
And be mindful of this as well. Be mindful of your notifications, because that can be a big distraction. And it's not always as productive as it could be. So
absolutely, and I think your thing around rewards is now is also a time to do something that you have never had the time to do in the past.
yeah.
So actually, reading books or doing anything. I think my son wants me to become an Xbox champion by the end of
Yeah.
this. So that will be one of my challenges. But
I had Stephen Fry was on the radio over the weekend, and he was talking about how we have more time. Yeah, because we haven't got that commute, we haven't got the things that take up time, because when we're going to the office, it's like, how do you fill your time in a way that isn't just work, that serves you well?
absolutely, and hopefully when we come out the other end, we're going to be better people and better teams for the for the benefit. So brilliant, and thank you very much again for your advice. Really good tips there, Nicola. And keep an eye on our blogs. We shall do some other things around the engagement communication. So from Nicola and myself, just take care and please keep tuning in.